Plastic watches. There are plenty of options out there. A lot of people immediately go to digital plastic watches like, of course, the G-Shock, one of the most popular watches that money can buy. However, today's list is going to be about plastic watches. All of them will be analog. So these are not digital watches. These are all plastic based. So I use the word plastic kind of loosely here. Bioceramic can be considered plastic, and there are a bunch of different resins that people call maybe not plastic, but they are plastic. But we'll go through all the watches and we'll talk about the materials that they're made out of. I have over 10 watches to talk about, so let's flip the camera and talk about affordable watches that are made out of plastic that don't suck. Right off the bat, I'm going to start with one of my favorite watches on this list. And it's one of my favorite watches on this list because of a few reasons. Number one, it looks way more expensive than it actually is. If you get it in the right color, it actually looks like a watch that could cost thousands of dollars. Also, I think they're really good looking integrated bracelet watches. These are the Maurice Lacroix Icons. And they made a series of watches that featured plastic cases. They were actually hashtag tied versions, so if you are searching for these, they are called hashtag tied. I will put some links in the description and down below, so you can definitely check out these watches if you are interested. These are icons. They look exactly the same as their metal counterparts. However, they are made out of recycled plastic. The gray versions and the black versions look almost identical to their stainless steel counterparts that have DLC coating. They do get 100 meters of water resistance, a sapphire crystal, a really nice strap, something that you would actually find on their more expensive counterparts, yet they do have plastic components for the hardware instead of metal, so there is a big difference there. But since they stopped making these are no longer available on the Maurice Lacroix website, but you can go on places like Joma Shop and auction sites, and they have these going for around $100 to $300, depending on the version that you like. And for $100, you can get a colorful case. If you want one of those more toned down versions, they're around $200. The special limited editions, those go for over $200, but I've seen them sell for really good prices as well. These are really good looking watches that are made out of plastic, but look way more expensive than they actually are. Today's video is brought to you by Chronograbs. If you guys are sick of paying high fees when buying and selling on places like eBay and Chrono24, check out chronograbs.com, where currently there are absolutely no fees buying or selling. That means you get a better price when you are buying and getting a better price when you are selling. So definitely check out chronograbs.com, an enthusiast-based marketplace started by John P. of the John P. YouTube channel, and currently the only marketplace that offers no fees. Definitely check them out at chronograbs.com. Next is yet another one of my favorites, and it's a watch that I currently own in my collection, and I do wear it a lot because I think it's just a really good looking larger dive watch. It is the Deepwater Reef from Timex with the XCF case. That is an extended carbon fiber case. Essentially all that means is that it is carbon fiber mixed with plastic. But the benefits here are that you get a very lightweight case that is a mixture of stainless steel and extended carbon or plastic. It feels and looks like plastic, but you also do get these metal elements. Those metal elements are the wear and tear items, like the crown, the case back. So those items will last you a long time. This watch will last you a very long time. They're around 43 millimeters. You get a textured dial. There's a wave pattern that is pressed into the dial. They're actually pretty good looking. You get a rotating bezel that works really well and a really nice strap on these. The straps on these have very heavy metal hardware and they sort of fold into each other so there's no keepers. I really love the straps on these watches. You get a sapphire crystal, a quartz movement, of course, and 200 meters of water resistance. So this is an actual serious dive watch that you could use for diving, and it costs around $259. That is an excellent price for what I think is a very good looking 1970s inspired dive watch with an overall good build quality. For $259, you really cannot go wrong. The next two watches on this list I'm going to group together. I have to talk about the Moon Swatch, of course. That is a Speedmaster. It is in collaboration with Swatch. It is made out of bioceramic, which is mostly castor oil with a little bit of ceramic mixed in, and it feels like plastic in hand. They're very lightweight, but they do have a Swiss quartz movement made by the Swatch Group, the Etta Group, and in general, I think these are really good looking watches, specifically the versions that get dark cases or light cases. So in other words, a gray case or a black case, I think they look really good in those versions, especially when they get a dial that sort of matches that case. I think they look a lot more expensive. These immediately need a strap change because the straps that they come on aren't so great, although they have started selling better straps for these, but they are an upcharge. So you're better off just going to the secondary market and getting your own strap. The other watch, of course, is the 50 Fathoms Blancpain Swatch Collaboration. These are a little bit more robust than the Moon Swatch, but they are more expensive. So the Moon Swatch is around $300 and change, depending on the version that you're getting. Of course, the 50 Fathoms is around $425, again, depending on the version that you're getting, but I think they are all priced in that range. These are a little bit more robust because you are getting 100 meters of water resistance, you are getting a mineral crystal rather than a plastic crystal, and you are getting an automatic movement. That is the System 51, which is essentially a pressed, stamped out movement. And of course, you can't service either of these watches. But specifically with the Swatch 50 Fathoms, I love the black version. That is the Ocean of Storms. I own that one. And the other one that I really love that I think also looks a lot more expensive than it actually is, this is a new version that just recently came out. It has a green dial, green case, green bezel. Put this on a green strap, a green leather strap, or maybe even a black leather strap or sailcloth strap, something like that. These look a lot more expensive than they actually are. I know there's a lot of hate for these watches, specifically around the price. Actually, that 50 Fathoms is probably the most expensive watch on this list. But with that being said, it still looks like a 50 Fathoms, which looks a lot more expensive. And that's kind of the reason why they are on this list. So if you like bioceramic, the next watch is a really good competition to that 50 Fathoms Swatch. It is the Bulova Snorkel. This gets a mineral crystal as well. However, there are a lot of metal components in this watch on those wear and tear points, like I was saying before, for the XCF Timex. This gets a stainless steel caseback, crown, and buckle. So those components, which you touch a lot, will last much longer than the other components on something like that 50 Fathoms. So that is a very important point. So if you want to wear these watches often, the Bulova Snorkel is something that will actually last a pretty long time. You get a rotating bezel, 100 meters of water resistance, a really nice textured dial on all of them, and they come in a bunch of different colors. One other advantage to this watch over that 50 Fathoms is that it is much cheaper as well. At retail, they are $350, but if you go on their website right now, they're on sale for $280. But they are releasing these slowly, and they are pretty colorful right now. I think they're going to come out with some more tame versions in the future. They're making limited edition versions of these as well. Pretty good looking watches for a very good price if you get them on sale, and that's basically the only way I would buy these at $280. That's a good buy, I would say. $350, I think, is on the slightly more expensive side for these watches. Next, we're going to talk about a watch that you probably didn't know existed. It's a Seiko. It's a Seiko 5 Sports with a resin case. They made about 6 or 7 different versions of this watch. Essentially, it's a 39mm version of the Seiko 5 Sports dive style watch. These got 100 meters of water resistance, a Hardlex crystal, so not a sapphire crystal, obviously, because this is Timex, and these are affordable watches. You do get an automatic movement in these. It is a 4R, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. So you are getting the exact same movement that you would get in the stainless steel counterpart. You get a rotating bezel, and you get a resin case. So these are plastic cases, and they are actually pretty good looking. There are a few different versions. Some have sunburst dials, some have tone on tone, so you have like a green dial, a green bezel insert, and a green case with a green strap. So basically green overload. But it's the versions with the white case that I really like. There's a brown version that I really like, actually. That is the SRPG77. They make a blue version, which is the 7.3, a black version, the 7.9, and then a cream version, which also looks really good. It has a cream white dial. That is the SRPG71. And they are very affordable. When they were new, they were around $300. On the secondary market, they sell for very good prices. I've seen these sell for around $100. Sometimes they sell for a little bit more than that. There are places that have them on sale right now for between $100 and $200. Definitely check these out if you are interested in a very cheap version of the Seiko 5 Sports, which is already cheap. You can get those for around $200. If you look around, if you want to buy one used, obviously, you could definitely get them close to that $100 price point. The next watch on this list is a Milspec watch. It's from Marathon. It's a quartz field watch. However, it gets tritium tubes. And this is actually a very functional, everyday field watch, and it is made out of resin. So the case is made out of resin. They make it in black, they make it in brown. There's a few different colors, and they make a few different versions of this. But the specific one that I'm talking about is the GPQ. And I really like this one because I love the little radiation logo on the dial. That's because you have those tritium tubes. I love that. These only get 30 meters of water resistance, which doesn't make all that much sense to me, but you do get a sapphire crystal. There's a little history behind these watches as well, which you're not really going to find that much in this category because of they are plastic watches. They are Milspec, so the Milspec is the PRF 46374G Type 2 Class 1. So that's the actual specification that this watch satisfies, which is pretty cool. You're not going to find this throughout this list. This is the only watch that is actually Milspec, and I think that's kind of cool. They are pretty expensive at $450, but again, if you go on the secondary market, you can get these for way cheaper, and it depends on the condition. So definitely shop around for these. You can get these for around $200 if you shop around. The next watch on this list is another Timex. It's another watch that I own. It is the Trap Rock. They recently stopped making these watches and they've been liquidated, so you could find them on a bunch of different websites for very good prices, around $80 to $90. The Trap Rock was actually, I think, a very good looking watch from their Expedition North lineup. So that means this is a field watch. It's made out of bioceramic, basically the same stuff that we've been talking about, part castor oil, part ceramic, feels like plastic. These get solar movements though, and they get textured dials. You have a topographic map on the dial. There are these lines, there's a texture, and it's a little solar panel. So these are actually solar powered, which is really cool. They came in green, blue, and black, I believe. Like many other watches that I've mentioned on this list, they get one thing really right on this watch. The case back, the crown, and the buckle are all in stainless steel. So that means those touch points will last a long time, and that means this watch will last you a long time as long as you don't destroy the case. And it is bioceramic. Bioceramic is slightly more durable than plastic. It isn't much more durable than plastic. This does get a mineral crystal as well, so obviously at this price point around $80 or $90, you can't ask for a sapphire crystal. Kind of makes sense. But these are really good looking watches, around 40 millimeters, that are amazing. My kids actually bought me one of these. I love this watch, and I will keep this watch in my collection for the rest of my life. Another watch that I own, there's a trend here. I didn't know I owned so many plastic watches. This is an Armitron. I bought this watch on a whim. They are very cheap. I think on their website right now, they're $57. But they are really good looking watches for $57. And this is directly from Armitron. They kind of look like the Tudor Shields. If you guys remember those watches, they had ceramic cases. These don't look like ceramic cases. Obviously, they're made out of recycled plastic. The dials are also made out of recycled plastic, and even the straps are made out of recycled plastic. But that being said, the case design here sort of echoes those watches, and the dials are really well executed. Specifically the one that I had, but they also make a black and gold version that I really liked. Now for $57, obviously you're not getting sapphire crystals. I think you are getting a mineral crystal, but you are getting 50 meters of water resistance. So you could shower and maybe take a light swim with this watch. And Honestly, it's not all that big of a deal if water does get into it because it's $57. I think they're really good looking. Check these out if you want something that is fun, colorful, with a textured or a pattern dial. And that pattern dial is made from recycled plastic for a really good price. The next watch on this list is yet another Swatch, but it's a watch that I've spoken about here before because I think this is actually a very cool looking watch. It is the Scuba Aqua. It's kind of an awkward name, but essentially this is a integrated bracelet style dive watch with clear cases. They are inspired by jellyfish. You have a rotating bezel, 100 meters of water resistance, and the straps and cases are see-through. You also get a quartz movement and a plastic crystal on these, but they cost $155 and they are a lot of fun. These are made out of a combination of plastic and bioceramic. So you can see the differences in the case. There's bioceramic, those are the matte portions, and then there are shiny portions that is plastic. I think these are actually pretty good looking watches. You have a crown at the 10 o'clock, which is a really weird position, but all in all, fun watches that look good, that aren't too expensive. And again, watches like these will end up on the secondary market and you can get them for probably around $100, maybe even less than that eventually. No list can be complete when you're talking about plastic watches and not mention Casio. I didn't want to mention G-Shock because I think that's the most obvious, but Casio, I think I needed to mention here. And there was a new edition that just recently came out that I really like. It is the MRW 230H. They came out with a few different versions, I think 3 different versions. One is a red and black bezel, one is a green bezel, and then there's one that is just a black bezel version. But these get a resin case, a resin crystal, and an aluminum bezel. So that is the update that they made to these. So they actually put an aluminum bezel, they are anodized aluminum bezels in these, and they make them look a little bit more, I guess, more expensive than they actually are, I would say. But they are $46 and they look like a traditional dive watch. You get 100 meters of water resistance and of course, like I said, that resin bezel. You could actually oil fill these watches. A lot of these watches that are quartz and dive watches, you could oil fill them. I've done this before and they look really cool. I'll throw up a video where I actually oil filled an MRW in the past. I've done that with a few different watches and I think it's a lot of fun, but that's for another video, another discussion. That is my list. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below about these plastic watches. There are other watches that I could have mentioned here. One is Luminox, but those are pretty expensive. If you look at them, they're around $500 to $1,000 and they have resin cases. So those are pretty expensive. I wanted to keep this at around $500 and below. So if I made another video about more expensive versions of plastic watches, I will include those. There are very expensive watches out there that are made out of resin cases. I think that Ulysse Nardin made one that was around $10,000, so that gives you an idea. But you can go way higher than that with plastic cases. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. Tell me what you would include in a list in the future of more expensive plastic watches. Anyway, guys, that's my video. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. That's really it. I will catch you guys in the next video.